My name is Mike Thomas, and I work with Hartnell College, but I've really been hired by the local industry group 5 years ago to work with Hartnell. So in effect, I'm really industry on campus. I'm not part of the faculty, I'm not part of administration. I'm really developing programs for the school. And I have a card that says my title is Director of Sustainable Design and Construction, because those are two of the programs that we totally retooled and recreated or created. For instance, sustainable design is not something you'll find previously at Hartnell. Probably you won't find it on any community college campus, but in terms of what's coming, it's desperately needed, because what we're doing going forward needs to be intelligently designed, and it also needs to be sustainably designed. There's many of us that have the belief that we're going to face a crisis in the next 5 years in terms of global economic collapse or collapse within our own system. In conjunction with that, that will put a huge strain. It won't be about filling jobs, it'll be about a paradigm shift in the way we go about pursuing an economic model, or the way we pursue the way we govern ourselves. All our domains are going to be impacted in the coming years. I came to the school, Hartnell, to presumably a construction task force asked me to expand the residential training construction to commercial. I considered it, and I explained to them that it would be wasting our time, my time, their time, if we just did that. What was really needed in the future was to retool the entire program, and to have residential, to have commercial, to have light industrial construction, to have heavy civil construction, but have it all green, have it all sustainable construction, which is a different way of teaching. To put that task on a faculty member, which they didn't even have at the time, would have not made sense. In fact, that's one of the tips I would have going forward. It's very difficult to put all the pressure on creating new curriculum just on the faculty, because the faculty are busy full-time teaching. They have very little time to create new curriculum, much less new programs. So the way we retooled here at Hartnell was, I set it up as a business proposition, and I came in on a contract. I hired someone who had all the skills and understanding of both green and sustainable design and construction, as well as academic, a person who had been working in building curriculums elsewhere. We linked in, we hired a full-time faculty member, but that person was working probably 10, 12 hours a day. They didn't have time to develop all the curriculum we needed and the changes in all the curriculum. So we formed a team. Myself, I would go out and get funding through grants and so forth. I would provide overall direction and design. We had our curriculum manager who worked full-time just developing curriculum the past 3 years. And then we had our full-time faculty member. At the same time, in my role, which was a unique role, I went out and I identified 12 new adjunct faculty members who represented the best industry has. It wasn't just somebody who was looking for something who didn't have something to do. We had basically replaced the faculty we had here at Hartnell, because these are people who had to really understand not only construction, but all the latest developments in construction and all the green developments in construction. So I tended to move to a much younger faculty and a very enthusiastic and engaging faculty that gets the students very excited about what they're doing. So during the past 3 or 4 years, we've been building a program for an industry that many thought was flat on its back, but at the same time we had green construction that was growing anywhere from 20 to 40% a year. So in effect, it wasn't an industry flat on its back, it was just shifting gears. We need to stay up and ahead. And this is an example of one tip I would have is, community colleges seem to be following industry around and taking orders for what they needed, as if industry always knew what was needed. Industry is faced with the same transition. One of the guys in the meeting we just had mentioned that they don't always have the answers. And for instance, in this case, I brought to them the need to produce, we need to develop a workforce of the future, not a workforce for the past. It was also important to consider that our workforce that we were looking at, if it hadn't been for the downturn in the economy, we would have been faced with another huge problem. And that was the retirement of the baby boomers, because about 80% of the whole construction workforce and all the skilled positions were people who came in the late 40s, early 50s, and they would all be retiring in this time frame. So as the industry begins to try to get its feet back under itself, it's already feeling a dramatic shortage of skilled workers in multiple areas. Looking at some of the other questions here in terms of stakeholder management, one of the recommendations I would have is for community colleges to really think of themselves as something different than a school with students in classrooms. We really need to get off our campuses, and we need to get in with our communities and mix it up and become a real integral part of our communities and provide a leadership role in those communities, not a followership saying, well, what do you need, here's what I'm going to do. It's like, have you thought about this? We need to provide a leadership role in creating a green economy for this region. Otherwise, we're not going to have a sustainable economy to lean on. One of the things we've done the last couple of years is, at Hartnell, is we've developed relationships. We have multiple cities in our region here. And for instance, in my role, I've been attending monthly lunches that all the mayors and the city managers have together, and they talk about their issues and their problems. And sometimes I do presentations saying, here's what we're doing, we want to get your people involved. Sometimes I'm just listening to what their issues and what their problems are, and then I bring them back and make that part of what we're trying to respond to. One example of that was there was a braided, if you will, grant from the Energy Department and the Department of Labor. It was a clean energy / green workforce grant, and we trained 182 people in collaboration with several other schools in the region, including Cabrillo College. But the ones here at Hartnell, one of the things they did is we took students that literally did not know how to use computers, and by the time they finished this 12-month program, they were pretty expert, and they were going out and doing building retrofit analysis. What I found was that communities had gone out and done a study to show what they needed to become sustainable. And the number one item they had on their list was to retrofit all their public buildings. And so I asked them how many people were actually retrofitting their buildings. Well, we don't have the money to do that. So we trained a workforce of students, and we sent them out, and we ended up doing building retrofit analysis on 11 buildings in 6 cities in our region. And we did detailed reports showing exactly what they needed to do. And you know, this would have cost them a fair amount of money to do all these reports and so forth. And it will still cost them some money to do some of the retrofit recommendations. We did the same thing for the community college here, and we're making a number of changes in our energy system and the way we're managing energy at our school. There's probably a half a dozen recommendations that have been adopted, these students presented in their presentations. So we were giving these students a real unique set of skills, and we brought in several companies that were working in this area, one in particular Building-Wise, who sent us 4 mentors who worked with our student cohorts. And each team that was working with a different building had a professional from industry working with them, showing them how you go about developing these reports, how you present them. We worked on presentation skills as well as all the technical skills that go into the analysis and how to put the reports together. And they did very, very sophisticated reports. So that was a really nice bringing together. We brought together unions who helped train part of it. We had several other groups that also participated. So in terms of tips on instructional redesign, I think we need to bust out of our systems. We've got a whole generation of boomers that are retired or retiring now that have extraordinary skills that are willing to work with community colleges, like myself. we need to engage these people on our campus to begin to, we don't have the money on our campuses to fill these kinds of positions and the roles that I'm filling. So what I'm suggesting is that we take a good look at how we can not only have student cohorts, but if you will, boomer cohorts that come to work on campuses and work in whether it's ag or construction or developing advanced computer systems. It could be most any area, because we have all those areas of expertise available to us from the retired generation. And to kind of break out of this notion that all new curriculum has to be generated by faculty and driven by faculty, I think it needs to be a collaborative between industry and faculty to create all these new programs. One, faculty can't do it by themselves, and two, it will not be as responsive and on target as it needs to be if it's just the faculty driving this. And we need to look at we managed to get 2 new degrees approved and 3 new certificates approved in the last year and a half, so we moved fairly quickly and got a lot of things done, but not just in the traditional way. We were breaking rules all the way down the line and asking forgiveness. So those are my recommendations.